The West Lane Schoolhouse sits in the middle of a triangle along West Lane and South Salem Road. We're standing in Silver Spring Road, which also intersects here. That made the schoolhouse a sort of an ideal location for the neighborhood children who could come from as far away as Lower Silver Spring, Umstead Lane, Peaceable Street, and all the way out toward the New York state line to go to school here. The first schoolhouse on this site was built in around 1750. This building probably dates from the 1850s and is a bit larger. The schoolhouse is one of as many as 15 that once operated in the town of Ridgefield. 8 schoolhouses still exist. 4 of them are now used as houses. Only one is a museum, and that's thanks to the Ridgefield Garden Club, which many years ago restored this building and turned it into a mini museum that explains what education was like in Ridgefield and in many other towns across the United States in the 18th and 19th centuries. As the sign next to the front doors states, Samuel G. Goodrich once attended this school. He was a famous author in the 19th century who used the pen name Peter Parley, and consequently the schoolhouse is sometimes called the Peter Parley School. As soon as you walk in the door, you're in the cloak room. This is where the kids hung up their coats and put their boots down, and they even put their lunches there. They would bring lunches in baskets or pails. If there was a whole bunch of kids together, like 3 or 4 from one family, they'd probably have a wagon just like this. This is the main schoolroom. It's pretty large right now. When the school was first built in the 1700s, it was about half this size. And around the 1850s, it was expanded to make it larger. What you see here are desks of the type that were used from the 1880s onward until the school closed in 1915. These desks are pretty modern by conventions of little red schoolhouses, but kids back then used pen and ink, and each one of these desks has a little inkwell with a little flip top on it where the kids would dip down, do their writing assignment, and then put their pen down. But before, say, 1870 or so, there were no desks like this. Instead, the kids sat around the outside. There were benches, and they sat at benches. And the teacher would stand in the middle of the room and talk to them. She might be talking to the first graders over here, and the second graders, and then walk down and talk to the third graders, and all the way around. And sometimes, like the 8th graders, who might be over there, would go over and help the first graders who were sitting over there, and both of them would learn from that process. But later on, when this kind of an arrangement was done, you had the schoolmaster or mistress standing at a desk like this. This desk, by the way, has a bell that could be used for summoning the children from recess, or announcing that school was starting, or just maybe to grab their attention. Now, back in the old days, this schoolhouse was heated by wood, and kids' parents were responsible for supplying the wood to keep the schoolhouse warm. It was originally a fireplace, old-fashioned fireplace to burn wood. Fireplaces aren't very efficient. It's It's nice and warm up near where they are, but if you're way down in this part of the building, not so good. Later, they've got a wood-burning stove like this one. The schoolhouse has these wonderful panels that were created by Tom Warren, who grew up in Ridgefield and is a graphic artist, graphic designer. And he made these explanations not only of this schoolhouse, but the whole idea of one-room schoolhouses back in the old days. This one covers the different district schools, and it shows pictures of many of them. Not all 15, but a lot of them. It tells about the school books. And there's a little bit of Ridgefield history, Battle of Ridgefield, and there's some old pictures of this schoolhouse. Some general history, the neighborhood, and the people who went to this school. Among those people were the 3 Goodrich children. Samuel Goodrich became a famous author in the 1800s, produced more than 100 books, many of them using the name Peter Parley. His brother, Charles Augustus Goodrich, wrote about a dozen books, including a history of the United States that was used in high schools for 3 or 4 decades, all across the United States. It was a very popular history. His sister, Abigail, became one of the first female editors of a magazine in the United States, and soon became a publisher. So you had these 3 kids that all came out of this school who went on to do great things in the world of letters.